Well, folks, Mitch McConnell is now the most irrelevant politician in Washington, D.C. Now, he probably has been irrelevant for a little while now, but it is official. He is the most irrelevant politician in Washington, D.C. He's being wheeled around D.C. by his staffers, trying to obstruct the second Trump administration, really in any possible way that he can. The former Republican Senate leader, instead of trying to cement his legacy in history books, is flushing it down the toilet, if he hasn't flushed most of it down the toilet over the last 5 years, I'd say. But we've got a lot to discuss today about this. But if you're new here, drop down below, hit that subscription button, make sure you never miss another video from us in the future. So as you know, McConnell, he was the longtime leader of the Senate Republicans. And I'll just start this off by saying he's just become so irrelevant at this point. There's no other way to put it. He's trying to obstruct the progress that the GOP has made. You know, he oversaw the Republicans and allowed President Obama to be elected twice. That's how bad Mitch McConnell and the Republicans did during the Bush administration, was that by the time it was over, that Obama was elected 2 times. But McConnell began his political career where he was a chief legislative assistant to a senator from Kentucky, Marlowe Cook, where he managed, I believe, about a group of about 5 people. And from there, he was in D.C., went back, got involved in local Kentucky politics until he returned back to D.C., I believe in about 1974. He became the Deputy Assistant Attorney General under President Ford. Now, he was first elected in 1985. Let's see, I believe it's 1985. Let's see, where... Yep, 1985. As really I guess you could, I'd say at the time, a moderate Republican. He was a lot more pro-choice at the time, and was really pragmatic, was willing to work across the lines with Democrats to get things done. But his partisan views came in real quick. He hardened up the realities of what it is in Washington, D.C., being a Republican. You know, he hardened up pretty quickly with his views. And a lot, and I wouldn't, you know, this is something I would be proud of it, that Democrats have described him as an obstructionist. You know, the federal government, people get this mixed up a lot. The federal government is not here to do, they're here to step in for the big things when necessary. The federal government should do less than it does right now. They don't need to regulate more at the federal level. They just don't. So I'm totally on board with Democrats describing him as an obstructionist. But so after that, he was in the Senate, eventually became minority leader in 2006. He was majority whip before that, I believe, elected in 2003. And he was elected minority leader after the Republicans lost the Senate in 2006, the midterms. And then finally, when the GOP took over control of the Senate in 2014, the last 2 years of the Obama administration, he finally became majority leader. Now, McConnell spent his first 4 years of the Obama administration trying to make him a one-term president. He was walking around claiming that the single most important thing that he wanted to achieve was to make sure that President Obama was going to remain a one-term president, which I think that's something to be real proud of. I think a lot changed with Barack Obama between 2008 and 2012. The hope and change, the hope kind of fizzled away. But McConnell knew that the only way to really contend with Barack Obama was really, I would say, was to have a unified Republican wall that would make sure that there would be no cracks. You know, he basically had the understanding that Republicans have almost literally nothing to gain as a party from reaching across the aisle and working with the president of an opposite party. You know, he cites a lot. Look what the Democrats did with Bush. They went over the line, worked with Bush, and Bush was able to run on some of those accomplishments. and was reelected in 2004. If the president can claim something as an achievement, it's just not worth. You don't have anything as to gain being a political operation from that. Now, on what you should do in legislation, actually delivering, that's a whole other conversation. But when you look at it as political points like McConnell did, and now obviously we know McConnell's baby that he has tried to, I don't want to say grow, but it's always been his focal point, have been the court system. McConnell really saw our court system in America as a way to enshrine his policies and make sure that reforms would stand the test of time, along with being able to block legislation from Democrats that if it was found unconstitutional, and this is a way that you could really limit a president and what they're able to do with the court system. Obviously, we're kind of seeing that even play out with Trump right now. Democrats are taking him to court. It was kind of expected, though, at this point. But, Trump, during his first administration, was able to get a lot done, nominated a lot of people, a lot of federal judges, but still, it's not always things aren't just all going to turn your way. And really, after President Obama was able to get 2 Supreme Court justices onto the court, the GOP took control of the Senate and approved the least amount of judicial nominees in the final 2 years that a president was in office since Harry Truman. I believe it was like 17 or 18. I bet you we can go down here. Let's see. Maybe it's not in here. Oh, I thought it was in here. But so be it. But really, most notable was that at the end of Obama's administration, he held open a Supreme Court seat for over a year, did not let Obama fill it on his way out of office. Obama had nominated Merrick Garland, who ended up being Biden's attorney general, to fill that. McConnell was just like, we're just not even going to hold a hearing on this. This seat was open when Antonin Scalia died, I believe, February 13th in 2016. Obama nominated Garland. McConnell's leadership, and really in the Senate, he refused to take any action on the nomination, which ended up holding that seat open for President Trump to nominate Neil Gorsuch for that spot, and they approved him, I believe, a couple months into the Trump administration, the first one. But it's like, yeah, after that, he held that seat hostage. He learned how to play tough with this. McConnell was in the Senate back when, Ronald Reagan appointed Robert Bork to the Supreme Court. It's like that was the first true where a group of Senate Democrats really ganged up to destroy, with their mission of destroying the nominee. Absolutely destroying him. McConnell saw, and he even gave a speech, I wish I had it pulled up, but on the Senate floor after Justice Bork's nomination was declined. I believe it was Anthony Kennedy who ended up taking that spot eventually on the Supreme Court. But McConnell basically just said, the Democrats violated these rules, and he's going to basically hold this against them for eternity. And he played the long game, and did he get it? Did he get back at the Democrats? Abso-freaking-lutely did he get back at the Democrats. He even said in 2016 that one of his really the proudest moment was when he looked Obama, what he says, in the eye and said, Mr. President, you're not going to fill that Supreme Court vacancy. And he didn't. McConnell didn't hold anything on it. April came around of the following year, and Neil Gorsuch was a associate justice on the Supreme Court. And it really was one of the most consequential decisions at that point in his life, which this is great. It's like let's just pause real quick to look at Mitch McConnell. It's like, so far you could be, I see what could be so great about this guy. And unfortunately, at the end of Trump's administration, and really his relationship with Trump during his first administration, was very rocky. He was not the closest ally of President Trump. I think that's a light way to put it. But obviously they worked together because they were in the same political party to get stuff done. Like I said, Neil Gorsuch filled the vacancy. McConnell also set the record for the most appeal court nominations confirmed during a president's first 2 years in office. He got 23 appeals court nominations confirmed. It's the most ever recorded. And by the end of Trump's administration, McConnell had pushed through roughly 260 federal judges during Trump's administration, including 3 to the Supreme Court justice, with really complete opposition from Democrats.
But
That's kind of, we're hitting on his highlights, and we're about to get to where things don't get so hot anymore. It doesn't get much better for him going forward. Because, like we said, although these accomplishments occurred during the first Trump administration, McConnell was really never that fond of President Trump. In 2016, he initially, I believe, endorsed Rand Paul in the 2016 presidential election, and eventually threw his hat behind President Trump, but never been on the same page. And just look where McConnell's approval rating is now, because it just gets worse. That's basically through Trump's first administration. At the end, obviously, January 6th happened. Mitch McConnell, ended up not voting to convict President Trump, but did say that he was morally responsible, and that really was kind of the end of their relationship. Obviously, he stepped down as the majority leader at the end of 2024, had multiple falls, freeze-ups on camera. Obviously, his age was getting to him, and it's time for old Mitch to retire. He did some good things for the GOP. There's a lot of things that he oversaw that were not great for our country. But ultimately, if you look at the judicial system, Mitch McConnell did more for the judicial system than any single person probably has in decades. It's there was a complete rightward shift in our judiciary system in America for the federal judges. It was very, very good, and that's going to be what Mitch McConnell's remembered for. And then basically, I don't want to say abandoning his party, but basically he got soft, and he was out of control for 2 years during the Biden administration. And what are you supposed to do? And he was just too weak and feeble those last number of years. That I think, unfortunately, that's going to be what he's remembered for. But I hope some people can remember the great reform he did for the judicial system. But now Mitch McConnell has really made it his mission in D.C. to deny President Trump achievements in his second term. Trump was able to get the most diverse electorate to vote for him that any Republican has seen in probably 50 years, doing the exact opposite of what Mitch McConnell and traditional Republicans would have wanted. Because now he has made it his achievement that he's going to deny President Trump really those achievements during his second term. But he's no longer party leader, and it really doesn't mean much what McConnell's going to do. He made the lasting change to our judiciary system and will affect our country for decades. But as the world changes, and really the Republican Party has changed a lot in the last 10 years. McConnell was just unable to keep up with it, as he is very, very unpopular with Republicans and core Trump supporters in the United States. And this is what happens to some people when they get older. They just have an inability to see the country has changed and what direction is it going in. It took President Trump, a complete outsider, to get the most diverse Republican electorate to elect a Republican president that we've really seen in my lifetime for sure. Just absolutely set records with the amount of votes that he received from African Americans, people of Mexican descent, it's on so many different levels. He won the youth vote. He won the male vote. It just did absolutely great things. But let's take a listen over at CNN. What do they have to say? What kind of polling do they have right now?
Talk a little bit about Mitch McConnell and the chance he's going to become a folk hero. It ain't going to likely happen. Because I want you to look at his net approval ratings. He is underwater with everybody. He has got the ultimate, or some might say, sad trifecta of being underwater overall. Minus 39 points. 39 percentage points more of the electorate disapproves than approves of the jobs that he has done. How about Democrats? He's 58 points underwater. My goodness gracious, the chance that all of a sudden, just because he cast 3 votes against Trump, that he'd somehow become a folk hero with them is absolutely, frankly, insane. And then with Republicans, of course, he's gone up against Trump before, and that's why he's 17 points underwater with Republicans. When you're underwater with Democrats, Republicans, and overall, the chance that you're going to become a folk hero, it seems rather low to me, Paula.
It does indeed. All right. Of course, the next question is, how does his popularity compare with that of President Trump?
Yeah, so, I think Donald Trump will like these numbers. All right, so let's take a look. This is the net approval rating I got overall, and I got with Republicans. Look how much higher Donald Trump is overall versus Mitch McConnell. Look at that. Trump is on the positive side of the ledger at +3.
Trump is more popular, people, than he has ever been before. It's just insane. And it shows Mitch McConnell very, very unpopular just because he's trying to do whatever he's doing right now. It's not going to materialize into anything. He's going to leave the Senate in 2 years. He better. Or somebody needs to primary the hell out of him. And the thing is McConnell had a lot of control because of money. Re-election. He had a beef with Ted Cruz. Basically, he gives Ted Cruz in his re-election campaign $0, basically. He used that money to get Republicans to fall in line, which you understand to a certain extent. But you left Ted Cruz in a couple races that could be very, very vulnerable. And I think he took some risks the last couple years that just do not reflect well on him. If he is remembered for anything, it's going to be for his work on the judiciary, but also his inability to see when the country has changed and to go with the tide. President Trump won the 2024 election, and he did it with the most support, like we said, from minorities that the GOP has seen in decades. And really, no thanks to McConnell. He did it all walking the opposite direction for where McConnell's at right now. And for that reasons, I believe Mitch McConnell is the most irrelevant politician in D.C., being wheeled around as a figure of the past Republican Party. He's a dinosaur left in Washington, basically at this point, that allowed President Obama to govern for 8 years. He oversaw the Republican Party and led it as Obama governed for 8 years. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Do you think that McConnell's the most irrelevant, or name drop someone else? Who do you think could be the most irrelevant? But as always, like, share, subscribe, and until next time.